here. So thank you guys again for coming and joining us in this kind of new virtual space. I appreciate you guys, coming out and trying this new thing with us. We've got two great college representatives, Rosa Reiber from Marquette and Brian Albertsen from Illinois State. They're going to kind of walk through some presentations and some information with you. They are really here to talk about the college process and the college search. While they are representing their own universities, one group that they do represent is called the IACAC, which is a group that high school counselors and college representatives are a part of, and we work really collaboratively well together. And so they're really here just to kind of communicate with all of you about that search in general. While they do work with certain universities, they're not here to promote or to suggest that you should go here. There will be a little bit of an introduction about what their schools are, so you know where they're coming from. But for the most part, they're just here to kind of answer some general questions. Some things they will obviously know more about their specific university as opposed to other universities. So just so you know, that's where we're going, and that's kind of what we're doing. So with that, I will hand it over to Rosa and Brian.
Great, thank you so much, Tyler. We are so excited to speak with Lakes Community High School students and families tonight about the college search process. Again, my name is Brian Albertsen. I'm the Assistant Director of Regional Recruitment with Illinois State University. And I'm actually located here in Chicago. However, our main campus and student life happens in Normal, Illinois. So many people are like, Normal, where is that? That's about 2 hours south of Chicago. And we're located in Normal because we were founded as a normal school, or what was a teacher's college. Our first graduating class was 10 students. We now have over 21,000 total students and 18,000 undergraduate students and 165 academic programs. Some of our top majors include education, business, nursing, actuarial science. Our newest major on campus is cybersecurity. So we kind of run the gamut in terms of the academic disciplines. Now, speaking about another fun fact about Illinois State, we're going to just kind of tell you a little point of pride. For Illinois State, our average salary after attending, this can often get confused with an average salary. This is actually 10 years after a student begins at the university. So typically 5 to 6 years after graduation, Illinois State grads make about $12,000 above the national average. So obviously getting a career is one of the most important things, one of the most important goals why students go to college. And so Illinois State certainly prepares students for that. And my true fun fact about Illinois State is that we have the oldest collegiate circus in the United States. We're actually one of 2 schools in the United States to have a collegiate circus, but ours is the oldest and longest running. So students, if you want to come to Illinois State and breathe fire, you can do that with us in the Gamma Phi. All right, Rosa, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good. So hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rosa Reiber, like Tyler mentioned. And yeah, we are just really excited to be here with you tonight. I know that these are really unprecedented times, and never did I ever think I would be giving a presentation in this format, but I'm becoming ever more grateful for technology and for its ability to be able to connect us in this time, especially because the thing that I love most about college admissions is the connectivity. I've worked in college admissions for 9 years. I worked at a small private school previous to Marquette, and now I work for a medium-sized private school at Marquette University. And so that's just kind of the scope, my understanding of admissions and kind of where I've been and the knowledge that I'll be sharing with you today. So just a couple very quick facts about Marquette so we can really dive into the good stuff that you're here for today. Marquette is located in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like I said, we are considered to be more of a medium-sized institution. So we have about 8,500 undergraduate students, roughly 3,300 or so grad, so a total student population of about 12,000. We are a directed knit university. We'll talk about that later on when we talk about academic fit and helping you and your students or you and your families really understand as students you're trying to decide on a college major. Directed knit is a really cool thing, and I can certainly help address questions about what that means. But some of our more popular majors are our College of Engineering, College of Nursing, College of Health Sciences, and our College of Business. And then Marquette is considered to be the number one in the state of Wisconsin as far as job placement, like Brian was mentioning, and everything we're going to be talking about tonight. It's really important that you're finding a school that is a good fit for you, so you have those really positive outcomes. We were recently ranked 19th in the nation for schools with the best internship placement. So that's a really cool bragging point. You'll see information about our average class size, student to teacher ratio, so a lot smaller for that mid-sized school. And then our fun fact, this is actually something that I really love talking about, is actually the Beatles during their 1964 tour. They actually stayed on our campus in Milwaukee. So it's one of our residence halls, Mashuda Hall. At the time, it was the Coach Motorhouse Inn. It was a hotel in Milwaukee. But that's our claim to fame, that the Beatles, parents, I'm sure you're appreciating this, the Beatles got to stay on our campus. So you students could stay in the same residence hall room that the Beatles got to stay in. So that's kind of neat. But as we begin, just because I think it's helpful for us to gain a deeper understanding for students, kind of who you are, what you're going through right now, if you could, we're just going to do a couple quiz questions. By quiz, I mean they're a poll. So you're not getting graded on this. This is just a quick poll to help us really gain a deeper understanding for who's on the chat with us today. So at the top of your screen, you should see directions. Go to menti.com. Students and parents can do this, but menti.com, and then you're going to use that code 147918 to get into the chat. So we're going to give you just a little bit of time to do that. Again, just a way for Brian and I to gain a little bit more understanding for who's in the room, and we're going to be polling you a couple times throughout the presentation. So if you want to keep that up or have your phone handy or your tablet handy to get into the poll, that would be great. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just for the sake of time, go ahead and get to our first poll. Don't worry, the website and the code to get into the room will still be on the top of the next screen. But as we begin, students or even parents, you can answer this. Go ahead and answer for us, how many siblings have you had go to or are currently in college? So this just helping us understand, for those of you who are on the chat today, how many of you, maybe is this your first student going to college, or students, maybe you are the first in your family who's going to college. So great, I see you all answering, which is awesome. So we'll give you a bit more time to go ahead. Wow, we have a few of you that have had 2 to 3 other siblings in school. Go you.
Yeah, they're the experts. Maybe they should be presenting
honestly,
tonight.
maybe you should be presenting instead. But okay, this is kind of common, I feel, to see the majority of people who are popping onto the presentation today. Maybe this is your first child going to school, or maybe students, you're the first in your family who's going to be going. I know I was a first generation college student, meaning neither of my parents went to college. My older brother, he went to the military after he graduated from high school. And so this is something that's new, and it's okay that this is all new. But like Brian and I mentioned, we've been doing this for quite some time. And, this is something that we love about our job, is being able to help walk families through these preliminary steps to their college search. So this is really helpful. Thanks for answering. We have a couple more. Students, how are you feeling about the college search process, according to our friend SpongeBob? How are you feeling about what's happening right now? The first one, no clue what I'm doing. Don't worry, that was me when I was in high school too.
Yeah, I think I was more of the nervous, maybe a little bit of the excited, but mostly nervous.
Oh, I think I was nervous because I didn't know what I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm happy to see that, you know, a lot of you are still feeling excited and you're ready to bring it on. But again, this is very telling and this is pretty normal too. The majority of students and families that are kind of going through this, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. So today, hopefully at the end of the presentation, you're going to feel a little bit more equipped to begin this process. Next question. And I'm sure this is probably going to be an overwhelming yes, but do you feel that the current pandemic has impacted your college search? Okay, we're gonna split.
Going back and forth here.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like I was actually expecting a larger majority to say yes, and I'm glad that it is a little bit more split because that makes me feel a little more hopeful. It makes me feel like, you know, maybe everyone's world hasn't been turned totally upside down, which is awesome. So I think that whether you are just starting your college search or you know, maybe you are a senior and you're not exactly sure what's going to happen next year, I do think it's accurate to say that whether you feel like it's been impacted or not, it definitely has impacted your college search. The fact that we're not doing this in person and that we weren't able to come and do a college fair and all of that in person and connect with you individually, that certainly has impacted it. And we're going to talk about ways that even now you can still be engaging and you can still be starting this process so that you're not feeling like your world is turned upside down. We can have a bit more control over it. So, okay. And then last poll question for now, and like I said, keep access to whatever tablet or phone you're using because we're going to do this a couple other times throughout the presentation. Have you already been receiving college communications? I love these little.
Yeah, those gifts are great.
I love that little dog. That's what I look like working from home nowadays.
That's what I look like on Friday afternoons. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, I'm going to let you take it away from here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Rosa. So yeah, so we know that your generation is receiving students, your generation is receiving more mail than any other generation in the history of time. We know as college admissions officers that the college choice only becomes more difficult because you have so many options. In fact, you have over 4,000 college options to choose from. And guess what? You only pick one to go to. And so there is a big decision paralysis that occurs because there's so many options. How do you make that choice? And so that's really what we're here to talk to you about today is how do you begin this search process knowing that there's so many schools out there, so many choices. How do we pick just one college for you? Next slide, Rosa. Awesome. And I think, you know, as we go throughout this process, one of the most poignant quotes I think that's really important for students and families to remember is that it's not about finding the best college, it's about finding the right college for you as a student or for your student if you're a family member joining us today. You know, I think we often get caught up in what is the best college. Many of you have probably heard of the US News and World Report rankings. Well, those will always say that Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, no surprise, are the best colleges year in and year out. There are a number of schools out there that could and should be on your college list that you haven't even heard of yet today. And so what we always recommend is that you go in with an open mind. Again, it's not about the best college. It's not about the college you see playing football on Saturday afternoons. It's about finding that best fit college or that right college for you. So where do we begin? That's really what we want to focus on next. And I kind of alluded to what we're going to be talking about next, and that's college fit.
Yeah, so fit, I think it's something that's incredibly important. Like I said earlier, you know, I've been doing this for actually coming up, it's going to be 10 years, which is crazy. But I think it's so important to talk about fit, having a conversation about match versus fit. You're going to have a lot of tools that help you to assess what schools do I match with. And on paper, you're going to match with a lot of places. If you think, maybe I want to go to a medium-sized private school, there's a lot of medium-sized private schools. If you say, I want to go to a school that has psychology, you could go to probably, 4,627 schools because almost every school has psychology. So you're going to match on paper with a lot of schools, but it's going to be really important to not just find your match, but to find your best fit. So today we're going to be assessing or helping you to find ways that you can begin assessing, okay, well, what are those factors that really play into my best academic fit, social fit, and financial fit? And these are things across the board. This is something, if you talk to any admission counselor out there, they're going to tell you that these are the 3 types of fit that really do matter the most. And you're trying to find that middle part. That's your sweet spot. So time for another poll really quickly. You want to get back out your phone really fast. We're going to have, thank you for the heart, whoever gave us that. That's so nice. But another quick poll. Have you already spoken with your counselor at school about potential college fit? Or have you maybe already talked to an admission counselor like Brian or I? Have you already started talking about this with a counselor, your potential college fit? Again, I love those animals on the laptop. Okay, so a good chunk of you are saying, I don't know, I don't think I have. Is this important for me to go ahead and start talking about? Does email count? I'm glad that several of you, you have already started having these conversations, but I think this is a really good jumping off point. And I know that this is not traditional by any means, that we're, having this conversation electronically, but you do still have access to resources. You do still have ways that you can start having these conversations, so you can make sure that you aren't wasting this time to go ahead and start making some leaps and bounds toward figuring out what school potentially could be a good fit for you as you're building that list. And then how do you feel about selecting a college major? Whoa, that was 50-50.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah. So a quick fact, the average college student changes their major about, 3 times, between 3 and 4 times. I thought for sure I wanted to be a teacher. And then I went and did one of my first observations and I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. But I knew that I wanted to do something with students. And it took me quite a while to really figure out, well, what major would get me there. So we can certainly talk through majors a little bit more as we talk about academic fit. So, and then the last question, I believe in this set, I've already visited a college campus. I'm glad to see that no one's too scared. That makes me feel good. Okay,
Pretty good number, yeah.
Okay, great. And clearly, we know that, maybe some of you had college visits scheduled for spring break, and obviously you weren't able to do that. So we're going to talk about ways that you can still visit campus. We're going to talk about that because I think that's a really good way to continue assessing personal fit as we go through this process as well. All right, moving right along. So finding your fit as far as the academic finding your fit. I think these are some important questions to be thinking about. What school will help me prepare for my career? If you were one of those students that said, I've known for years what I want to major in, then you need to make sure that the school that you're thinking about has your major. If a student comes up to me at the Marquette table and says, hey, I want to study architecture, I say, that's awesome. We don't have architecture. I don't want to mislead a student and have them think that, we're going to be able to propel them to that future, undergraduate degree that they want if we truly don't have that major. So make sure that you are looking for schools that have your major, but also don't pigeonhole yourself into, well, maybe I only want to go to this school because it has engineering and they're only an engineering school. What if you do change your major and you want to change to something different? It's also good to understand, well, what other options are available at a school? If I do end up deciding that I want to change my major, will I need to transfer schools altogether if I want to switch my major? So be thinking about that as well. So try, students, to have as much of an open mind as possible when it comes to the majors that you're thinking about. Certainly learn about the ones that you think you are most interested in, but also just take a look at what else the school has to offer as well. And then I think it's important as well to talk about something that's called the middle 50%. This is one of those like elusive college terms that when I was a student in high school, I had no clue what that meant. The middle 50% ranges, what that means is that students who have been accepted at an institution, 50% of them fall into these ranges. So you'll see there in the middle that 21 to 26 ACT, 1060 to 1270 SAT, 3.1 to 3.8 GPA. This is just for random school, right? So these are just examples of the middle 50% of students who are accepted fell into those ranges, excuse me. But that means that 25% of students who were admitted to this school, 25% scored less or had a GPA that was less than these amounts. And 25% of students who were admitted scored above that, okay? So I encourage you to look at the middle 50% so that you can have an understanding for, do I match with this school? If I decide to go there, will I be in over my head, or will I be in with other students that are also in my same range? Am I going to be challenged by my peers, by my faculty? Do I want to go to a school that's a bit more of a reach? So this is just a really good way to begin assessing your academic match with a school. And then once you actually are able to get on campus and visiting classes and really getting to meet with faculty and hear about student research and student internships, that's when you're really going to figure out, do I fit in this classroom experience? So figuring out, do I like the really big lecture hall? Do I like to blend into the crowd and the professor doesn't know if I'm there or not? Or do I want to have a class where maybe the average class is only about 23 and my professor is shooting me an email if they notice I'm not in class? So these are all of the factors that go into finding that academic fit overall. And if you have questions about middle 50%, let us know. But hopefully that just helps to describe that terminology a little bit, so that you're not thinking, oh, I have a 1050, that means I'm not going to get admitted to this school. It's also important to understand and talk to different admission counselors about what we're really looking for in the application. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. And then finding your fit, we're going to talk about the social fit specifically as well. So these are some questions you should be thinking about when you're trying to assess a social fit. So who attends the school? Where are they from? So as an example, we have students at Marquette from almost every state, 70 different countries. So there is a ton of diversity on our campus. What's the community like surrounding the school? Is it a little bit more urban, like Marquette? Is a little bit more of, I wouldn't even say that Illinois State is rural, but I just think normal Illinois. Yeah, you pass a little, your Illinois State farm on the way there down 55. So do you want to go to a place that's a little bit more rural? Do you want to go to a school where the entire town is a college town? Or do you want to go to a place that has, the big university athletics, or the much smaller activities? So really just asking yourself those questions. What really matters to me? Start even writing down, I think I want to go to a school that's within only a couple hours, and I want to I don't know, I want to still be involved in my underwater basket weaving club, or whatever it is that you're interested in. Write down those characteristics and start finding schools that match that. I also think this is an important one, this last bullet point here. How long is it going to take, and how much will it cost for me to travel to school? Like I said, I was a first generation college student. I'm from Florida, and I came to school in Chicago, and now I live here in the Chicagoland area, so I never went back home. And sorry, parents, if that freaks you out, but I think students, that's something that's important to know. Do you want to be able to, within driving distance, be able to access your family? In my case, I did need to fly in order to access my family. So those are some things that you need to be thinking about: size, location, activities you can be involved in, maybe a specific religious affiliation, student demographics. Those types of characteristics really matter when you're thinking about the types of students you're going to surround yourself with, the type of campus community you're going to surround yourself with for the next 4 years, and also the type of actual community in whatever city you're going to be located in. Those things really do matter when you're talking about social fit. And let me get the next slide. And then next, we're going to talk about financial fit. So this is kind of the last piece of that Venn diagram, right? So I think it's important I know financial fit is a really big deal, and especially those of you who are on the phone who maybe are seniors, who've already gone through the whole financial aid process and really now are just trying to figure out that final decision before May 1st, which is National Decision Day. But as you're beginning this college search process, I really encourage you to not be dissuaded from a school because of sticker shock. Sticker shock is a really big deal. College isn't cheap. And so around this time of year especially, I'm having a lot of conversations with students and their families about the cost of a school versus the value of attending that school. So talking about the return on that investment, our students making $12,000 more than the national average after they graduate from a school. That's a big deal. Knowing that more than 90% of students are placed within 6 months of graduating and they're in a job within their field. Those are things that you need to be thinking about when you're thinking about the value of a school. But when it comes to the sticker price, especially speaking from the perspective of a private institution, no student pays the full sticker price to come to Marquette. Every student's going to receive a merit-based scholarship. We have other scholarships that students can apply for as well throughout the process. And in addition, for those who are able, you're going to be able to file your FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, which would also make you eligible for additional need-based aid that you could qualify for as well. So I think right now, especially those of you in the chat who are, maybe sophomores and juniors who are really starting to get into the thick of having these college conversations as a family, is to start having a conversation as a family about finances. I know that's awkward, but I think it's important so that the student is able to know, is this all on me? Do I need to find, a lot of scholarships to go to school? Or maybe your family has been able to save a certain amount for you along the way, or your grandmother is going to help out. So have that family financial conversation so you know what to expect as you're going in. But please do not let the sticker price of a school prevent you from applying, because you never know, if you get to the end of the financial aid process, a private school might end up being less expensive than a public school, but you're never going to know unless you go through that whole process. So again, I know that, for some of you on the call, this might seem a little bit early to be having these types of conversations, but I do think when you have conversations with your admission counselors at the schools you're looking at, it is important to go ahead and start asking, what scholarships, grants, loans, what other resources am I going to have available to me that I can apply for? And then start writing down some of these scholarship deadlines so you won't miss it, because there are different deadlines for every school. So I know this has been a ton of information so far, but I'm going to go ahead and flip it over so Brian can talk a little bit more about the timeline.
Awesome. So yeah, we know that we have a number of different age groups of students on the Zoom today. And so we just kind of wanted to talk about what, your 4 years of high school really look like in terms of the college search. And really between your freshman and junior year, even into your senior year, you are researching different colleges. You're always learning about the different schools that you are interested in applying to and eventually enrolling at. In your junior and senior year, that's really the time that you are wanting to start visiting colleges. Visiting is by far one of the most important things that you can do in the college search process. You know, Rosa and I, before the coronavirus came up, we were going to be at probably close to 25 to 30 college fairs together this spring. And, you know, you can go and meet all of these different schools at these college fairs, but you don't know what it's actually like at those schools until you actually go and visit those locations. You know, I've gone to a number of restaurants that I've read on Google reviews and I thought, wow, this place is going to be really great. And then I end up and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so good. And so similar to the college search, you got to visit, you got to go check it out. Fall of your senior year, that's when you apply. So anyone on the phone today who's a junior, a sophomore, a freshman, it's not until the fall of your senior year that the application stuff will apply to you. And then by May 1 of your senior year, that is when you have to have your final college decision made. That timeline is looking a little bit differently for some students as seniors this year, but May 1st is the National College Decision Day, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that research process. I think one of the most important parts of this process is also doing some self-reflection. And I think Rosa talked a little bit about this with the academic fit and the social fit. Who are you? And that's a huge question as a 18, 17, 16, 15-year-old to say, who am I? It sounds like an English paper, right? I promise we won't be grading any of this, but what you should probably do is start making that list of things that you're looking for in a college, and then parents separately and family members separately write a list of what are the characteristics of a school I think my student would do well at, and then come together and discuss those. Discuss the similarities, discuss the differences, because that is how you're going to be able to come together to make that right fit choice. And so again, researching, this can go a number of different ways. We first want to highlight one of the big benefits that you have as a Lakes high school student, which is Naviance. Naviance is an awesome tool that you have at your disposal to go on and research different universities, view that middle 50% that Rosa was talking about. You can even see a scattergram of how students from Lakes have fared in the admissions process at that university. So Naviance is a great tool, and I know your school counselors will be discussing that with you soon if they have not already. Other great resources are college search websites like Big Future, CapEx, Niche. Caution to the wind, I'll say, if you sign up for those websites, if you think you're already getting enough college mail, you're only going to be getting more. So again, I just want to advise you that they will likely give us your information. And then Strive Virtual College Exploration Week. This is actually happening right now. They have hundreds of colleges who are actually doing presentations regarding the general college admissions process this week. And so I'm actually presenting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Quick selfless plug. Rosa, when are you presenting?
Yeah, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m.
All right, awesome. So you can get me and Rosa back to back tomorrow morning again. And so there's a number of great sessions going on. And then actually the next 2 weeks, from Monday the 27th through Friday, May 8th, they're going to have institution-specific sessions. So if there's certain schools that you want to hear from, whether that's Marquette University, Illinois State, whether that is University of Oregon out in Eugene, Oregon, or maybe the University of Florida, there are a number of institutions you're going to be able to hear from, and you're going to want to go on to strivescan.com/virtual. And of course, it's free for you as students. And so that's a huge opportunity for you right there that's happening now.
Yeah, and definitely check it out. There are, the last time I checked, there's about 87,000 high school students around the country that are signed up to participate in these events. And so, like Brian was saying, you know, if you are interested in learning more about a specific college or university that might already be on your list, we do have the opportunity over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing, you know, virtual admission presentations through that. So make sure to sign up. It's a really cool resource for you. So, all right, moving right along, visiting. I know that right now you're probably like, Rosa, Brian, why are you talking about visiting? We can't leave our homes. We totally understand. And I think it's important to just realize once things are back to quote unquote normal, it's going to be important to utilize these tips and tricks for when you are able to visit a campus. Okay, so we're not naive to think that you should be doing this right now, but these are things you should do once you are able to get onto a campus. First of all, contact the admission office. This is our job. We love being contacted by students. I've been able to you know, meet virtually with some of my students over the past several days, and it gives me so much energy to be able to connect with students and help them through this process. So contact the admission office. You're going to find you know, a friendly version of Brian or myself at each of the schools you're going to be looking at, and they're going to help get you in touch with all of the upcoming visit opportunities that that school has to offer. You know, anything from daily visits, open houses, shadow visits where you're able to shadow a student, go to classes with them, overnight visits so you can get that genuine feel for what is it really like to be a student on this campus. The list literally goes on and on and on because every single school gets creative about how they want to showcase their university to you as prospective students and parents. So I would really encourage you, when you are able to visit, try and choose a day that you're able to visit when students are on campus, when class is in session. It's a totally different feel visiting a school on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. when a lot of students are trying to take advantage of that time to either study or, let's be honest, they're probably still sleeping in on a Saturday morning. You're not going to get the most genuine feel that you might get on a random Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, you know, when you're seeing students go from class to class and they're busy going to and from their internship or their research opportunity or their on-campus job to study in the library or grab a cup of coffee on campus. You know, so just find a day that it is going to give you that most genuine feel for this is what it's really going to be like if I were to choose to be a student at this school. Make sure that, I think it's also important when you are able to visit a college campus, it's important to do the admission visit because I do think there's a lot of really cool resources and information that you may not get otherwise. But try and walk around maybe outside of that scheduled tour time as well. Something that students always comment on when I say, hey, like, what made the difference for you at Marquette? And they're like, well, students opened the door for me. Like, they smiled at me, they were friendly. And I was like, oh, that doesn't happen everywhere. And I guess it doesn't. But I just think, that's something where walk around and get a feel for what it's like to not look like a prospective student, look like you are just a part of the crowd, and get a feel for how you're treated. You know, pick up a student newspaper on campus, you know, just really utilize campus as if you were already going there for a day, and just try and make it the most genuine experience you can. And then next, these are some great questions to ask on a campus visit. I would encourage you to maybe, you know, take a screenshot if you're on your phone right now, or even, you know, take a picture of your screen. These are things that you should be asking us, you know, questions that we are used to answering a lot. I would also really encourage you, you know, don't just ask us these questions, but ask current students, they are your most important resource. They are the absolute best way for you to know what school you will be a good fit at. If you connect with students, if you can, have as many opportunities to kind of place yourself in their shoes and get a genuine sense for what it truly is like to be a student, that's going to really help you assess which school is going to be your best fit. So please go and ask these questions to current students as well. Ask them what their favorite tradition is. Ask them what they like to do on the weekends. It's just really important to get that information from the source. And then I think it's important, like we were talking about, it's really important at this time to address, so what do you do now? Again, we are not naive to the fact that it's different. Everything is just different right now. And we are certainly empathizing with that. And we're trying to do as much as we can to bring the process to you and to give you enough resources so that you can go ahead and start diving in. But I would encourage you, almost every single school is going to have resources that they already maybe had out there. I know we already had a virtual tour available for our students, but we did not have nearly the amount of online resources and videos and content that we actually have now. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in either of our schools, go and check out these websites. Any other school that you might be considering, look at their social media, their Instagram, their Facebook. Go ahead and look at that, see what type of content they're putting out, and then check out these websites. I know, speaking about ours personally, the videos from around campus and beyond, we actually have specific videos where you can look at counselors, giving a little spiel, or current students talking about their specific major. We have a whole tab at the bottom where you can explore specifically the College of Nursing and do a virtual presentation specifically with that academic department. So we are doing our best, and the we is not Marquette, it's college counseling as a whole. The Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling, people like StriveScan, all of these people who are trying to put our best foot forward to put these resources out there so that, you're not missing a step in being able to explore all these resources. It's all there, it's all available. And a quick plug, if you do want to look at my counselor video, you'll get to see me making banana bread in a time lapse, which is really fun. So check that out. It's really cool. Oh, something else that I think is important about this slide, a lot of schools now are offering this ability to do like a live chat as well. So even if you did just have a quick question like, hey, I didn't know if you had an architecture major, do you have that? Just for quick questions, utilize those campus chats as well. All right. Handing it back over to Brian.
I'm going to need to check out that video about the banana bread. So adding that to my list.
At some point, yeah.
So let's talk about the college application process. So seniors, you're probably already through this process or should be already through this process. Juniors, you are heading into this process this summer and early fall. So this is just a very high level type of overview of the college application process. So of course, the most important thing that you will do is the application itself. Don't forget to do the application. That's the number one thing. There's a few different types of applications out there. There is something called the common application. It is what it sounds like. It's a common application for hundreds of different colleges and universities, all under one specific application program. There is another type called coalition. Very few schools use that, but it's good to throw that out there. And then there's also a school or institutional specific application. That's what Illinois State is. We only use our school institutional application at this time, so you have to come to our website to apply. Different schools will have different application processes, and you'll want to know which application each school is on before you even start that process. An important tip is to write down your username and your passwords for all of these websites. It never fails. I have a handful of students every single year who call me and say, what was my password again? And unfortunately, I don't have access to that, right? Information technology security, they would not let us have that information. So you'll want to have all of that written down. Many applications will have an application fee. Some will offer you an application fee waiver. Some may be, you may be eligible for an application fee waiver based on economic hardship, what have you. So that's always a question to ask as you're going through the process. A growing trend of colleges and universities admissions processes is the move towards self-reported information, and every school will talk about self-reported in a little bit of a different way. For Illinois State specifically, you know, we allow students to self-report their test score and their GPA and the courses they've taken. We make admission decisions off of that information. So of course, we ask students to do that truthfully and correctly and accurately because we will verify that information once you graduate high school and choose to enroll with us. That's when you would have to send in that information. But other schools may require that an official copy of your transcript be sent or an official copy of your test score is sent. So that's always good to know. Do I need to send in hard copy documents, or am I able to self-report it? Many schools will require an essay or maybe even a personal statement. The Common application has, again, common standardized questions for the essay portion. Others, like the University of Chicago, will have very bizarre questions asking you random different things. I'm not going to come up with anything off the top of my head right now. Letter of recommendation. Many schools may even require some letters of recommendation. You know, a big question with letters of rec is, oh, well, is it okay if my grandma writes my letter of rec? No, she's probably going to think you're a pretty great person, right? Should my athletic coach write my letter of recommendation? Well, the best people to write your letters of recommendation are often your core classes, core class teachers, and a recent core class teacher. So maybe a science teacher that you did a project with in your junior year. Maybe an English teacher that you had a breakthrough moment or assignment with in your junior year as well. So it should be someone that you trust, someone that you know that is going to give you a good recommendation. But not all schools will require those letter of recommendations or even accept the letters of recommendation. There may be other requirements like an interview or what have you. There's a number of different requirements that you might find depending on the school. And I think that's one of the most important questions that you can ask an admissions officer like Rosa or myself is, what's the application process like? And you know, I can tell you in about 2 minutes. I have like a 2-minute spiel already prepared to go to tell you it from start to finish to let you know what that process looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think it's important to just know that there are a lot of similarities between schools and their applications, but there are a lot of differences as well. You know, as an example, we don't have an application fee at Marquette, but you know, there are little minute differences between each place. But that common application, you know, in some cases, it does help students, you know, if you do want to apply to 5 schools in one fell swoop. So it's going to be important to just make sure that you are having conversations with admission counselors at various schools just to make sure you are understanding what all do I need to prepare in order to be a very competitive applicant at your institution. So I know Brian was mentioning some other things that you might need to submit. One of them is test scores. I know that this is a really hot topic conversation, especially now in the changing landscape. And so we certainly wanted to address this. Test optional. This is probably a term that you've heard a lot, or maybe you've never heard it at all. Test optional is something that there were several hundred schools in the United States, you know, before all of this happened, that were already hosting a test optional policy, which basically means that students have an opportunity to choose whether or not they would like to have a test score considered as part of their application process for that institution. So oftentimes, you know, there are some schools where if you meet the test score, you meet the GPA, you're in. It's a very computerized, very generic type of admission. It's just based off of that quantitative information. More often than not, though, I'm hearing that the majority of admission offices, we are reading applications. I know that I read close to, I don't know, 800 or so applications this fall. Some of my colleagues read thousands of applications, though. So it really depends. But what that means by reading an application application is we are really taking the time to look into the classes you've taken, the grades you've received in those classes. We're looking at your essay, we're looking at your letters of rec, we're looking at your activities, we're looking at it all and making it all come together in one nice little package, never diminishing your application down to just one aspect. So never diminishing it down to just a test score. And so test optional is really just an opportunity for institutions to eliminate that barrier for certain students. So students, it's an opportunity for you to decide, does my test score represent me, or do I want my test score to represent me or to play a role in my admission? Or for schools that are test optional, like Marquette, you have the opportunity to say, I don't want my test score to be considered, and we're going to base your admission decision off of all of the other aspects you've sent us. A good way to assess if test optional is going to be a good fit for you. Earlier, we were talking about that middle 50%, and you can do some research and figure out the middle 50% ranges. If you're kind of falling in that middle 50% or above, it seems like you would be a good fit for that school, and maybe you do want to submit your test score. But if maybe not, if maybe, you know, you're right there as far as GPA, but you know, you're not a good test taker, that's okay. You don't have to submit your score. So really utilizing that middle 50% range to make that decision for yourself. It is a personal decision. I had students ask me this year, I have a 29 on my ACT, but my friend has a 31. So I think I'm not going to submit my score. And I said, why? Our middle 50% range is a 25 to 29. You're right there. Like, why would you not submit it? So, you know, don't compare with your friend, compare with the institution. I think that's really important to note. Test optional policies vary from school to school. So there are some schools that are test optional for everything. So, you know, not to keep going back to Marquette, but it's my best frame of reference. We are test optional across the board. You are eligible for admission and for scholarship, even if you do not submit a score to us. There are some schools, though, that we're test optional. We're test optional for everything but our College of Nursing, or we're test optional unless you want a scholarship. So just keep that in mind, especially as we are seeing literally thousands more schools that are popping up offering test optional policies for students who are going to be going through the process or who are being impacted right now by the current pandemic. It's really important to note that we clearly understand that, you know, tests are being impacted, and your ability to take the tests and to do well and to take that test in a very traditional sense, that's being impacted. And so there are some schools that are coming up with test optional policies, but I would just really encourage you to ask deep questions about what their policy really means. Is it test optional across the board, or is it only for a certain program, or can I still get a scholarship? So ask those questions. And then test optional versus test blind. There are some schools who are test blind, meaning even if you send them a score, they're not going to look at it. They don't want to see a score. They're not going to have that factor into your admission decision at all. I know test optionals are really, it's challenging to understand, and it's also challenging to know what action you should be taking as a student. So I would encourage you, any school that you are thinking about, reach out to the admission counselor at that school and ask them, hey, what is your test policy? What's going on now with the recent pandemic impacting my ability to take my test as a junior? Okay. And then we're going to do one final poll. We're almost done. Thanks for sticking with us. So one final poll before we wrap up. I see y'all getting out your phones, which is great. One last thing we are wanting to know. How are you feeling after all this information? Again, we know this has been a lot, but how are you feeling as we move forward from here? Okay. So a couple of you still feeling a little concerned, still feeling lost, still feeling nervous. Majority of you feeling, cool as a cucumber, or feeling well equipped and excited about these next steps. So I think for those of you, and even if you didn't want to admit it, or you just really like Amy Poehler and you wanted to, click on her picture, maybe a lot of you are still feeling uncertain and feeling nervous. And I just really want to reassure you that moving forward from here, we are still a good resource for you. So I know Brian's going to talk a bit about May 1st quickly.
Yeah, and I think we also want to recognize also that your school counselors are great resources as well. So not only do you have resources at the colleges that you are looking at, but you have awesome resources at your high school to help you through this process. And like it was said earlier, we work together with your school counselors to make this process work. And so there is often a constant communication between, our Office of Admissions and your school counseling office. And so that's good to know as well. One of my favorite questions to ask when I'm visiting students at a high school or even doing a presentation like tonight is to ask, how many students have been asked in the last week, where are you going to college? And, most students would raise their hands, right? Because there is an immense amount of pressure right now for students to determine where they're going to study, what they're going to study, and how they're going to pay for it, right? And so what I want to remind you is you have time. And so you may be feeling, oh my gosh, all of my friends know where they're going to school. Trust me, if you're a junior right now, none of your friends know where they're going to school because no one's applied for admission yet. So you're good to go. No, everybody's in the same boat at this point. And so even into the fall, people will say, oh, well, I have to have my college choice made by Thanksgiving or by the New Year or by prom. Well, you actually have to have your college choice made by May 1st. And so oftentimes I have conversations with students and families and I say, whoa, let's pump the brakes. We have time to figure this out. Seniors, if you're on the call right now, that's what I've been telling all of my families I've been working with over the last couple of weeks is, hey, we know there's a lot going on right now with COVID-19 and the coronavirus. Let's slow down a little bit. We can make this decision as it comes up. So wherever you're at in this process, know that you have time and know that you have resources like Rosa and I and your school counselor.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are seniors and you're like, but May 1st is only like 9 days away. Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of schools that are instituting, deposit extension policies and things like that. Just reach out to your resources. We're really happy to help so that you do feel well equipped so that you can make those decisions. But what can you do now? I know some of you might be feeling stuck. Some of you might be feeling like, well, this kind of seems hopeless. What do I even do? How do I even start? I just really encourage you. I know e-learning must be difficult. It's been difficult transitioning to, being just in my home office every single day. So I can't imagine, continuing trying to learn in that process, but just every day continue striving to be academically your best, do the best that you can. If your school is instituting any sort of pass-fail policy, just understand that, colleges are going to be really empathetic. I just encourage you to realize that none of us have been through this before. We're all going through this together for the first time, hopefully the last time. And so this is just really important to continue having honest conversations with your counselors at your high school and with counselors at the colleges you're thinking about. Being your own best advocate. And I do mean that students, be your own best advocate. I love having conversations with students. I love emailing with students. I love hearing that from parents as well, but I love it when students are already advocating for themselves, because when you get onto a college campus, you're not going to have your parent there, your guardian there to always advocate for you. So it's helpful, students, that you already start getting this practice of being your own best advocate. It's also important, this might seem trivial, but go ahead and set up a college-specific email account. Oftentimes, your school email address is going to be deactivated when you graduate, and so it's really important to make sure you already have one email account that you're able to access, and maybe also so it doesn't have a funny name that you made up in middle school as your first screen name, Rockstar3. Whatever. I don't know. I think my first one was like Sunshine446. So go ahead and just create something that is a little bit more professional, that you're not going to be embarrassed to give to different colleges. And then I know we've mentioned this several times, but find your Brian, find your Rosa at the schools that are interesting to you. I promise they're going to be friendly and approachable. If they're not, let me know. I'll whip them into shape. But I enjoy working in this field so much because of just that community that we do have with one another. It might feel awkward to you, but we're not competing with each other. If you as a student are finding your best college fit, then we've all done our jobs appropriately. So make sure that you are finding your person at the schools that are interesting to you, and then start doing the research and quote unquote visiting. Start doing as much as you can in ways that are available to you now, because there are a lot of resources that are available to you. You are just one computer screen or tablet or phone away from being able to find those resources. And then here's our contact information as well. If you do have follow-up questions, for Marquette or Illinois State, or want to clarify anything that we've talked about tonight, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're more than happy to help.
Woo, woo. Well, thank you guys very much. I hope you guys found it informative. Once again, there's their information. I'll let it sit for a little while longer so you can get that. It was also on the email that we sent out earlier today, so you can absolutely reach out. Once again, reach out to your school counselor if you have any questions. Just want to thank you guys again for helping us and talking to our community. That was great.